everyone, and it is time for State by State. This week, our state is Indiana, our home state. Indiana was admitted to the Union on December 11th, 1816, making it the 19th state. The capital is, of course, Indianapolis, which is also the largest city. Indiana takes up a total area of about 36,400 square miles. The highest elevation is Hoosier Hill at 1,257 feet above sea level. The lowest elevation is the confluence of the Ohio and Wabash Rivers at 320 feet above sea level. Okay, this is our flag. The blue background and a gold torch surrounded by an outer circle of 13 stars and an inner semicircle of 5 stars, and a 19th larger star at the top of the torch, crowned by the word Indiana, which represents Indiana's admission to the Union as the 19th state. It was adopted on May 11th, 1917, and standardized in 1955. It was designed by Paul Hadley. The state bird for Indiana is the cardinal. As I've covered them previously, I'm going to list some fun facts about them. For one, cardinals are typically the first birds that will visit bird feeders in the morning and the last to visit in the evening, so keep an eye out for that bright red plumage. Fun fact about cardinals number 2. During courtship, during the breeding season, affection is expressed by the males feeding the female seeds in a method known as beak to beak. If you let your imagination go a little bit wild, you can say it kind of looks like they are kissing. Cardinals have a pretty distinctive call or vocalization. It kind of sounds like they're saying birdie, 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 or dear, 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 which makes them pretty easy to identify a cardinal when it's singing. And the final fun fact, which is very funny, you might have seen this actually at your own houses, is during mating and nesting season, the male cardinals get really bumped up with the hormone level, and they become really, really territorial and will attack any intruders that they feel are a threat to their chicks. Which can lead them to fighting violently and incessantly with their own image for hours in windows and mirrors, or basically anything that has a reflection. It can be very funny to watch. The state flower of Indiana is the peony. It was passed in a law to make the peony the state flower of Indiana in 1957, which replaced the zinnia. Now, the peony is a flowering plant in the genus of Paeonia, the only genus in the family Paeoniaceae. So, they are a perennial plant that can grow from 1 to 3 feet tall, but some of them are actually more woody shrubs, which can grow 1 to 11. It just depends on what kind of peony it is. Peonies are known for having pretty big flowers. In fact, the one that I have at home, that my mother's grown, has flowers so big that it bends the plant down to the ground. So the thing goes from being at my hip to suddenly at my feet. So if that tells you how big the flowers are, they get big. For that reason, they are actually pretty popular in the cut flower industry. Now, peonies come in a bunch of different flowers. They come in a bunch of different colors. The ones that I'm most familiar with are pink, but there are ones that are yellow, red, white, a kind of purplish with yellow tips. Basically, there's a bunch of different colors. Just depends on what kind of peony that you planted. The state tree of Indiana is the tulip tree. It's a fast grower, but it doesn't have the common problems that come with other fast-growing species, such as weak wood strength and short lifespans, which means it's less likely to be destroyed by a storm, be knocked over or something like that. Now, it still does happen, but it's just less likely than other fast-growing species. It can grow to be over 100 feet, and it often has no limbs until it reaches, about 80 to 100 feet, which can make it a very valuable lumber tree. The wood is a light yellow to brown, and the sapwood is a creamy white. Light, soft, brittle, close, and straight grained. It has a preferred soil, which is deep, rich, and rather moist. So that's why they tend to grow in the I'm going to say southern part of the US because it's covering most of the southern states, but Indiana and even up into Illinois and parts of Michigan have the same kind of soil. Interesting historical fact, it was once called canoe wood because of the habit of the Native American tribes to make their dugout canoes out of it, out of trunks. So a lot of the early settlers of the west of the Appalachian Mountains called it canoe wood. It's also sometimes called the fiddle tree due to the way its leaves look with their arched bases and in-cut sides, which is kind of like a violin shape. Indiana has a state pie, and that pie is sugar cream pie. Now, you might know it by its more French name, which I'm going to attempt to pronounce, but I do not speak French. Tarte au sucre, which, from what I can understand, means sugar tart or tart of sugar. It's usually a single pie crust with a filling made from flour, butter, salt, vanilla, cream, and brown sugar or maple syrup. Sometimes you get both of them. Then it's baked and you get a mixture similar to caramel. If maple syrup is used in it, you might hear it called maple pie. And according to some opinions, the ideal sugar cream pie is supposed to be like Santa Claus, in that it should shake like a bowl full of jelly. The largest producer of sugar cream pies is Wix Pies, whose plant is in Winchester, Indiana, and they make more than 750,000 sugar cream pies a year. You can recognize theirs by the nutmeg dusting in a shallow depth in a disposable aluminum pan. The recipe comes from a family recipe that is said to have originated in the 19th century. So that's a mighty fine pie. Okay, now we're going to move on to fun facts about Indiana. The first one is going to be about Indiana limestone. Now, Indiana limestone has a handful of different names. Usually you'll end up hearing it called Bedford limestone because, Bedford, the geological formation is primarily quarried in between the cities of Bloomington and Bedford. Bedford, Indiana also is noted to have the highest quality quarried limestone in the United States. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what limestone is. Instead, I'm going to talk about, things it's made from. Made from it. For example, we have the Empire State Building, whose facade is actually Indiana limestone, Bedford limestone. And a lot of the buildings you see in Chicago that are limestone buildings that were built after the Great Fire, that's Indiana limestone. Ever been to Biltmore Estate? The limestone facades on those buildings? Indiana limestone. The Pentagon? Indiana limestone twice over. When the Pentagon was attacked during the 9/11 terrorist attacks, they redid the outside, again with Indiana limestone, Bedford limestone in particular. Other interesting things made with Indiana limestone: the Glory of Commerce. a sculpture that is on top of the New York's Grand Central Station or Grand Central Terminal and features different figures out of Greek history, and it's made with Indiana limestone. The University of Pittsburgh has a place called the Cathedral of Learning. It is a neo-Gothic skyscraper and is the tallest educational building in the Western Hemisphere and the second tallest university building, fourth tallest educationally purposed building in the world, after the main building of the Moscow State University. Guess what it's clad in? Bedford limestone. Like I said, Indiana limestone is known everywhere. But different state capitol buildings, there's a ton of buildings in Indianapolis, monuments, hotels that have it, churches. It was a very well used and well loved architectural stone that came from Indiana. Okay, so I'm going to guess that everyone listening and watching this is already familiar with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, aka the Brickyard. It seems that the entire state goes nuts in May because of it. But did you know that the Brickyard has a very special award? It's a world record holder for the most amount of permanent seating in a sports venue. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds to make a guess on how many seats there are at the Brickyard. No cheating by looking it up on your by looking it up in another screen. Okay, you made your choice. 257,325 permanent seats. However, you also have to take into account that there are some seats that are not permanent seats. So that means the Brickyard has a total capacity of 400,000 spectators. And that, my friends, is a lot of spectators and makes it the highest capacity sports venue in the world. It was from my own early experience that I decided that there was no use to which money could be applied so productive of good to girls and boys who have good within them and ability and ambition to develop it as the founding of a public library. Andrew Carnegie. So now why did I start off with this? Well, many of you might know or might not, Andrew Carnegie was a very rich guy. Back in the early 1900s, he made his fortune in steel from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. He made a fortune, but as he grew older, he had a desire to give back. And his goal was the improvement of mankind, as he said. By the time he died in 1919, he had given away more than 90% of his wealth. Now, how does a steel magnate from out east have to do with Indiana? Okay, so he basically gave grants to build public libraries and university libraries. In fact, a total of 2,509 Carnegie libraries were built between 1883 and 1929. But Cassie, you may ask, what does this have to do with Indiana? Well, it just so happens that Indiana has the most amount of Carnegie libraries anywhere in the world, including Clinton Public Library, which is a Carnegie library. This might be interesting to note. There were originally 164 Carnegie libraries built in Indiana. 145 of them are still standing, and about 98 of them are still serving as libraries. The others have been repurposed into things like city halls, museums, community centers. I know there's one historical society that's in one. There is hardly a county in Indiana that does not have a Carnegie Library building, and in many cases, it's still serving as a library. A library outranks any other one thing a community can do to benefit its people. It is never a failing spring in the desert. Andrew Carnegie. So, thanks to Mr. Carnegie, we have our wonderful library here in Clinton, as well as a whole bunch of libraries all across the state. Okay, so that is me done with the talking about places around the state. I hope that interested you. Now we're going to move on to the authors that are from Indiana, and in fact, I tried to make it as many who are in the close area of our library as possible, such as local authors. I did include a couple that were well known, or that it was interesting that this person was an author. Remember, the people need to be born in, raised in, or have a significant connection to the state of Indiana. Also, the music you're going to be hearing in the background is a recording of On the Banks of the Wabash, the state song, which is not Back Home Again in Indiana. It's not. It's On the Banks of the Wabash. Be more precise, On the Banks of the Wabash, Far Away is the whole title, and was written by Paul Dresser, who a lot of you might know is from Terre Haute. Now, there's some fuzzy-duzzy about who wrote it first, but in fact, the song Back Home Again in Indiana, which a lot of people think is our state song and is not, was actually part of a dispute with Dresser's estate that never got resolved. So, very interesting. And if you're wondering, the recording of this song was by Harry McDonough, published in 1902. So now onward to our authors.
On the Banks of the Wabash, sung by Harry McDonough, Edison Record. Round my Indiana homestead wave the cornfield, in the distance loom the woodland clear and cool. Oftentimes my thoughts revert to scenes of childhood, where I first received my lesson, nature's school. But one thing there is missing from the picture. Without her face it seems so incomplete. I long to see my mother in the doorway, as she stood there years ago, her boy to greet. Oh, the moonlight fair tonight along the Wabash. From the fields there comes the breath of new-mown hay. Through the sycamores the candlelights are gleaming on the bank of the Wabash, far away.
Thank y'all for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can find out whenever we are doing something we've posted a new video. Check out our Facebook page, our Twitter, and our Instagram to keep up to date with what we are doing at the Clinton Public Library. Our next state by state is going to be Iowa. Hope you guys enjoyed this and have a nice day.